Guys, we're still in the fall season. I'm still trying to be anti-caffeine. Today we're drinking hot chocolate, and my secret recipe is that I steam my milk in my coffee machine to make the milk warm, and then I put French vanilla creamer and then like the Hershey's chocolate syrup. And it's always divine. Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Anna Sitar, and today we are talking about love. One of my favorite topics. I'm a sucker for rom-coms. I love love stories. I think one of my first questions whenever I meet someone is like, are you dating and how did you meet? And I just love to over-romanticize not even life itself, but relationships. And I think love could be a million different topics. This almost feels like the confidence episode where there's so many different branches that we could be talking about. We can be talking about falling in love, saying I love you, family love. Can you love more than one person? Are soulmates real? We're going to touch on a couple of those topics on today's episode, more centering this idea of love, inspired by not only a submission that we got last episode, if it went live in order, that we got last episode, and also a book that I read recently, because I'm also on Book Talk and I'm in my reading era and I'm loving every second of it. I just started Throne of Glass. So if you haven't started Throne of Glass, let's read it together. I'm on page 100 right now. Like literally just started. And we can like have a little mini book club. Maybe I'll touch on it a little bit during these episodes and tell you guys my updates of how I'm feeling about the book so far. But before we get into Anna's Guide to Love, this is going to probably be Anna's Guide to Love part 1, because I doubt that I can fit everything that I'm feeling about it in a single episode. We're going to hit my rosebud thorn because I have good ones this week, you guys. Okay, my rose of this week, easy. I did triathlon yesterday and I reached my goal. That rolled off the tongue way too quickly, but I did this triathlon here in LA. It was over in Playa, which is, if you live in LA, it's like kind of by the marina. Pretty much airport, right to the water. That's where I swam. So I did this triathlon, and it was supposed to be a 400 swim. My Apple Watch told me that it was a 550-yard swim. It felt like a 550-yard swim. It felt so long. But then you get out of the water, you do a 12.5-mile bike, and then you run for 3 miles. It's right about 50% of a full Olympic length triathlon. And my one that I did before this was even almost was even half of this one. Not in this one portion, but I only biked 6 miles and ran 2. So we're slowly escalating closer to Olympic length triathlons. And I did not do any training before this because I'm focused on my marathon that's happening in December. But I was like, you know what? I think I could do this in an hour and a half. And you bet your bottom dollar that I did. I didn't think I did at first because my Apple Watch told me I finished it in an hour and 32 minutes. But my ankle timer that you wear while you're racing told me I did it in 1 hour and 29 minutes and 29 seconds. Right on the dot. This is why you don't give up. Even when I thought I wasn't going to make it, I just ran fast anyway. And we still made it. Slay. So that was the peak of my weekend for sure. My bud is that I go to New York tomorrow for a very short time, literally a day. But I also always look forward to New York in the fall. I just get to go. I get to see my sister. I get to lay low in the city. Bru's out of town right now, which honestly is going to be my thorn. But it's going to be nice to have a little solo trip. It's hopefully getting chillier in New York. It's kind of jacket weather. So I'm looking forward to having some time in the fall season on the East Coast tomorrow and hopefully take some cute pics and be there for a really exciting conference. And then, my thorn is that Bru went to Mexico this week, and then he's going to Vegas with the boys after. So I miss him. And that's all. All right. So on today's episode of Anna's Guide to Love, we're going to be talking about this topic of saying I love you to start out the episode. And I think this can be a really nerve-wracking thing in a relationship. I think it can be scary because there's this chance that someone's not going to say it back. And I know that there's so many arguments they're just words. You can show love in so many different ways than physically saying I love you or verbally saying I love you. But I do think that they still hold a lot of weight because they're so meaningful. And I definitely am someone who overuses I love you. I say it every time I'm thinking it, every time I hang up the phone. I say it to my friends. I say it to my parents. I mean, I think that raises the question of, does it lose value if it's overused? But truthfully, I just want people to know how appreciative they are in my life. So I have no fear of saying I love you, except for when I said to Bru the first time. And the truth is that I did say it first in our relationship, because hindsight's 2020. He told me later that he was going to wait for me to say it first because he had done all the other steps, like asked me on our first date and asked me to be his girlfriend and invited me home for the holidays and like all of these like kind of pivotal decisions he prompted. So he was like, I wanted to make sure that like I gave you room to reciprocate this energy that we had going. But even prior to the actual like saying of I love you, we let it slip a handful of times. I think that's so natural. It happens all the time in relationships where you like are leaving the house and you're like, okay, love you, bye. Did I just say that? Like you like walk out the door and you're like, I mean like I really, in some way I do, but I also, you didn't hear me say that. It's just that I appreciate your presence and I hope that it doesn't vanish in the next 30 seconds while you overthink what I just said. Okay, thank you, bye. Like, there's this really interesting dynamic of dating where it's almost like the who's gonna say it first. The L word is so weighted in relationship. And a portion that prompted this idea and this thought was this idea of someone from the last episode where we did an Anna Answers episode had submitted that they were in a relationship for 3 months, but were nervous about talking about exclusivity. And I don't have a lot of dating experience. I've only said I love you to 2 men in my life other than my parents and my dad pretty much, or like I said, my younger brother. But I kind of was curious about timelines then. And I know I have friends who said I love you on the 3rd date, and I have friends that said I love you 2 years in. And I think it also sparks that question of like love at first sight, and like how do you know that they're the one? And is love something that grows, or is it something that's consistent and instant? Is it something that you say out of the honeymoon phase and out of a spur of the moment, or is it something that you can really feel the difference in? And I don't really have the answer to a lot of those questions, but it's something that I love thinking about and I love navigating. Like I'm naturally a relationship girly. I'm naturally a love girly. And I think that there's a lot of meaning behind those words if you don't say them with no meaning. I think you can get love bombed and someone can say I love you and not mean it. But I think that there's something really beautiful about like how special those words are. Like I feel like I have a photographic memory of the moment that I said it, and honestly Bruce's like face and reaction. And he did say it back, which was great. And I don't know, I can't say that I was nervous. No, I was nervous to say it because I was worried he wouldn't say it back, but looking back I wonder what it would have felt like if he didn't. Because I just knew it to be so true that I don't think him not saying it back would have faltered or changed me having said it in the first place. Does that make sense? Like if I had said it and he didn't say it back, I don't think I would have meant it any less. With that being said, what is love? How do you know that it's real? How do you know that you feel it? Is it the fact that you like can't keep your mouth? There's this lyric that I love. I think it's Hate to Be Lame by Lizzie McAlpine, where she says something along the lines of like, I Googled what love meant. Pretty much like in a generalization, it's like I Googled what love meant, and people say when it's always on the tip of your tongue, that's how you know that it's real. And I think about that constantly because I felt that way. I was like just waiting for the energy to be right to be like, by the way, I love you. Like I could not wait to say it to him. And it also makes me think about if you've loved someone before, when did that love stop being love? Because you don't really feel it anymore. Okay? Complicated. But you kind of have it all towards one person, even though those emotions about your previous person never really goes away. You just know that like this is a moment of your life. And that predicament, okay, is the perfect transition into a book that I read that really made me feel seen and understood. I talked about this on TikTok in like a very brief video, and pretty much the moment that I said on TikTok was like, everyone needs to read this book because it gave me different perspective on what I thought about relationships and love and that dynamic. And pretty much I'm going to tell you the plot of the book, okay? So I don't want to spoil it. If you want to read this book, don't listen anymore. Like skip the next 5 minutes, okay? Because I'm going to tell you exactly what this book was about. So it's called One True Loves, and the book centers this idea that this girl in the storyline, this girl is out to dinner with her fiance and her parents when suddenly she gets a phone call from her husband. And it like puts you in the scene where you're like, oh my God, is she cheating? But the answer is no. In like 3 years ago, her husband went on a trip. He's like a travel videographer. He went on a trip and the helicopter crashed. And they didn't hear anything and they didn't find any bodies and it like crashed in a lake. So like they were like, everyone's dead. Okay. So she mourned the loss of her husband. 3 years later, she moves back to her hometown. She meets this guy that she had gone to high school with that she always kind of had like a little bit of like a love interest, but it never really grew. They never really pursued each other. They bump into each other in their adulthood. They rekindle. He makes her feel really good in different ways than her husband did, but still good and still to the point that she is like in love with this man. And suddenly it is revealed that her husband lived. Okay. And he was actually stranded on an island and ended up swimming out away from the island until a boat found him at sea. Okay. Doesn't matter how unrealistic that is. I'm going to believe that's what true love is. And I'm going to die on that hill. And he every day was like, I can't wait to get back to my wife. This is the love of my life. This is the person that I've waited forever to be with. Okay. I have chills. I'm going to start crying. And she has this predicament of, yes, I still loved my husband. I've also mourned the loss of my husband. In these 3 years, I've changed as a person. I'm a different person than the one that he fell in love with. And pretty much the moral of the story is the husband returns and she has to choose between the two men. Like at the end of the day, it's like, do you go back to the husband that you loved? Or like, what about this new love interest that you like literally just started pursuing? Do you get married? I mean, they're only engaged. They're not newly married. So like, what do you do? And it's really funny, the dynamic. The husband has so much confidence. He is like, great, you're not married, you're just engaged. That means that you're still my wife. You can call off an engagement easy. This would have been complicated if you were married. I don't care what you did when I was gone. You didn't know that I was away. Everything is fine. The fiance is like, I know I told you that I would always understand, like that you had a husband that could be the love of your life, and I'm just happy to get any version of love that you want to give me. But also, that being said, I thought he was never going to come back. So like, what do I do now? And for some reason, I like really connected with this book because I felt like I understood this character's predicament of like, I've changed from the wife that he had to the woman I am now, and like kind of what I want for the rest of my life. An underlying tone is that she lived in LA and she had this like adventurous, crazy lifestyle. She was always on the road. She was always running. And after her husband passed away, she moved back home, which was on the East Coast. She settled down. She took over her parents' bookstore. She met this guy who's just like consistent and good. And like, has like pets and is ready to just like domesticate her life a little bit more than who she was when she lived in LA. And when she lived in LA, she was with her husband, who like also had that same lifestyle. And she had kind of pitched to him a few times like, what happens if we should start slowing down? And he didn't really receive that. Okay. So now that she's moved on and she's moved somewhere different and she's a changed woman, the story ends that she chose her fiance and she, ended up leaving her husband, and her husband ended up moving back to LA and actually finding someone else. And the story ends on this really beautiful note of them, like him calling her and being like, I met someone and I'm getting married and I see exactly what you mean, that like you can have more than one true love. Because for that era of their life, they were true loves. And in this new era, it's someone new. For some reason, that made me feel like a lot of peace. I don't know why. It like made me feel very just like understood, I think. Because I think when you fall in love, you often wonder if like any of it before was ever real, or like what was I feeling before, or how have I felt before. I'm even guilty that I happily, because I'm not asking of a place of jealousy, I'm asking of a place of curiosity, because I just think navigating this like mental wave of love is so enticing. I like have asked Brew, like, do you think you really loved anybody before this? Do you think that like that was true genuine love, or do you think that it was like a sense of comfort that you like felt comfortable with them? And like if you did love them, do you think you still love them now? Or like how do you feel about these things? Because I think that for me, I'm always wondering like how people are evolving and where they came from and what they're looking for anew in partners, in life, in goals. I mean, Even just yesterday over dinner, I was out with Danielle and we were joking that we were talking about getting engaged. And I kind of laughed where I was like, I mean, I can't tell you anything. I thought I was going to be engaged at 23 because that was like a different era of my life. And look how much has changed since that era of my life. So, with that being said, it brings up the other question of, do you think that love lasts? Do you think that love is forever? Hi everyone, I am so excited to share with you something that I am absolutely obsessed with lately. It's my new underwear, and I know you're thinking, what could it be? But it is the Fits Everybody collection by Skims, and truly I think it's their best kept secret. I've been wearing Skims for a while now, but the Fits Everybody collection is honestly incredible that I'm about to throw out all my old underwear and replace it with this new collection. Honestly, I need every color. It isn't like any underwear that I've worn before. It's soft and smooth and melts into your body the second that you put it on. I love it so much that I think that everyone should have the chance to experience this level of comfort. As you probably know and can see, I have a smaller build and bralettes usually leave me pretty flat-chested. But I love the Skims Fits Everybody products leave me so confident. The band around my chest gives me a lift that I've never experienced for the girls. And the Fits Everybody crossover bralette has the perfect coverage with still a little bit of cleavage. It's replaced my entire top drawer. I've always struggled to find intimates that work for me because some bras have weird gapping and lines and different places that just don't fit right on my body. But thankfully, Skims are seamless. And I feel my sexiest when I feel like my best self, and Skims does that exactly for me. The Fits Everybody collection is available in extra small to 4X, and you can shop it now at skims.com. Select podcast in the survey, and to be sure to select my show, Anna's Guide, in the drop-down menu that follows. I have parents, I do not come from a divorced family. I have parents who have been married for 8 years. Yeah, they've been married as long as my sister's been alive. So almost, they're at 30 years. With two parents who I've seen grow and go through different changes and like life elements together, it makes me kind of wonder, like, maybe it is meant to last. But also I think, is love just the act of choosing the person that you want to be with? I think that a lot about when you're in a relationship, it's never about like who talks to you or other people's actions. It's like willingly choosing your partner every single day to show up for them in the way that they need. You're not always going to feel like doing that. You're not always going to feel like pouring your heart out or, the honeymoon phase, it's so easy to be enamored with each other. Like when you first meet someone, it's like exciting and everything is new and you're getting to know them and like they're a good listener because they're listening for like what your favorite gifts are and all these like little elements that come part of a relationship. But once that phase ends, how do you keep that love alive? Because I do think you always have love. Even for past relationships, I always think that you have love for someone, but you are not in love with someone like you are when you are in a relationship. So, how do you make love last? This idea of how to make love last, I think, gets harder as you get into the relationship deeper. I think that it's easy to plan like fun, exciting trips or having stuff to do with each other. But something that I really try to do, I'm not great at it right now because obviously my boyfriend and I are never really in the same place. But if we could have a very consistent schedule, I think probably long distance relationships feel this. I think it's easier to keep a relationship alive in a long distance relationship. Okay? Hear me out. I know what you're thinking. Okay? Sometimes I feel like I'm in a long distance relationship with my partner because this week alone, not in the same place. 2 weeks ago, not in the same place. The whole summer, I would like meet him halfway through my trips and see him for like 3 to 4 days. Now, I think that we struggle because we come from a relationship where we used to spend all of our time together, and especially in this year particularly, we've had a lot more divide. So oftentimes I think we like use this terminology of like, I just don't feel very connected right now, or like, hey, I just need like better time together. I think that something in a long distance relationship that makes it feel easier is you look forward to the next time you see them. There's this like honeymoonish energy because it's like when I see them, I will not see them again for 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 3 months, 5 years, like whatever. Not 5 years, I hope. But like, you know what I mean? It's this thing where it's like, okay, I'm going to see them for this one weekend. We're going to jam pack this weekend with everything good and quality time. I'm going to give them all of my love, all of my physical touch because I want to like soak it up and I can't get any more of it than that. And then we'll be apart for a little bit and that's going to be fine. But like when we're together, I want to make it count. I think when love feels like it's dying is when you stop trying to make it count. I think like love starts to feel mundane when you treat your partner that maybe you live with like a roommate. when you treat seeing them every single day as just a part of the relationship versus such a quality that you should take advantage of. That's where I think that like love starts to kind of waver a little bit. Because if you're just spending your time, like, listen, I love cuddling on the couch. I also love a dinner date. I also want to go on a little adventure. I also think that we should go and like, I don't know, I love a little gift. I love a little flower. Like, there's little elements that you can do that spice up even the most mundane activities. I even love, like, one of my favorite qualities is I went to the grocery store and I got you this like little candy because I was thinking about you. Oh my God. Chivalry is not dead with that action. That is the love that I'm looking for. Or showing love by doing maybe acts of service that they might not be used to, or implementing them. I think this is about to transition into using I love you too much, and you'll see exactly why. If you do something really consistently, does it lose its value? Like opening the car door for your partner. Do they begin to just expect you to open up the car door for them? And then does it lose that action of love? Or like, this is something that my dad always did when I was like younger, and I think I took for granted, but now as an adult I realize like how sweet, not even as a kid, but as like a 16-year-old, even now in my adulthood when I come home, my dad will always fill my gas tank for me. Okay? If I'm at the house, at my parents' house, their gas station is like not even a mile down the road from where they live. If I'm home and my dad sees that I'm visiting with my mom, or I'm up in my room, or like, hey, maybe I'm taking a shower, or whatever it may be, he will borrow my car and suddenly my gas tank will be filled the next time that I get in it. And that's like such an act of service that my dad does that like I forgot was so sweet and like so, I don't know, that's just so nice. Like that's something it doesn't cost, I mean, obviously costs money to pay for gas, but it doesn't like, it's not difficult to do, but the thoughtfulness really matters. And I think that actions like that in a relationship are how you keep the relationship afloat, how you stay in that in love era and don't fall into like, I love this person, but I'm not in love with this person. I feel like we hear that phrasing all the time. Oh my gosh, what does it mean to be in love? Like, what does it mean to be surrounded by it? What does it mean to be encapsulated by it? I think it's those things. I think it's like the slight daily moments of thoughtfulness. And honestly, saying that makes me wonder what your guys's are, because I feel like my dad filling up my gas tank is such a like a little niche, like cute one that I think about them like, oh, that's a really sweet way to like show you love someone. So when I post an Instagram story this week or an Instagram in feed, please go comment what your little acts of love are. I'm going to remind you guys too, because I think that's like a really sweet thing to have, to remember, like, I love when they do this thing, and you shouldn't take those little things for granted. But overdoing it doesn't mean that it goes away. Doesn't mean that appreciation for it goes away. Because I didn't notice my dad doing that when I lived at home, and he was doing it all the time. And now that I don't have it, I very much remember that I have to go fill my gas tank myself, and I'm just a girl. Doesn't mean I can't do it. I just sometimes wish my dad would do it for me. Overusing I love you is a big question. And I think it depends, silly to say, what kind of family you grew up in. My family was very much an I love you family. We said it all the time. We said it constantly. I have friends who like didn't really grow up in families that said I love you all the time or a lot. So when they said it, it was like, wow, like that's how you know that it happened. For me, we use it in in normal phrasing. We like slip it in between everything we say and everything we do. And is that a bad thing? I don't know. I actually am not sure if it's a bad thing. I love it because I think that life is short. And I think you should tell the people that you love them when you're with them, when you're leaving them, when you're just thinking it. And I'm that kind of person. I'll just be sitting on the couch watching TV and it'll kind of hit me for a second like, wow, you have such a wonderful partner. And I'll just say like, I love you. Like out of the blue, because I'm thinking it, because it crossed my mind for a second. Why wouldn't I share what's on my mind? That's 90% of this podcast. But I think that it's one of those things where I don't think there's such a thing as overusing I love you. I'm curious what you guys think, because I can understand where maybe it loses value, but I think it only loses value if you don't mean it. Like if I said I love you and you said why, I would have an answer. Because I love the way that you take care of me. I love the way that you watch out for me. I love the way that you showed up for me today. I love the way that you made the bed. Like, I would have a reason for why I love them. And I think that that's when you have value behind it. I think if you didn't have value behind it and you're just saying it just to say it, like in relationships, I think that that does happen, especially when someone else says, I love you first. I think you can say it out of the fear of hurting their feelings or fear of being rejected because you didn't say it yet. I think that's when we'll slip in an I love you and it's not meaningful. And I think that's when it loses its value, not when you're overusing it. So, yeah. Okay, guys. Thank you, Swati. We are adding another cutie little element into this podcast. Laura, one of my icon production girlies for my pod, pitched this idea. And she was like, you have never done pulling something out of a bowl and answering questions. She pitched it 3 minutes before we started recording this podcast. Thank you, Laura. And honestly, she wrote all these down and has really beautiful handwriting. I wish that you guys could see how stunning this is. And because I already picked one out, I'm going to read you exactly what it says. Okay, Laura, these are deep. What the heck? Pretty much I'm going to answer these. I'm just going to give you guys a little precursor. I'm just going to pull these out and answer them. And maybe we'll save them for the next time that we do an Anna's Guide to Love Part 2. Maybe we'll use them on a guest next time I have them here. Who knows? Not me. So let's answer this first one. It says, would you rather have love and lose it or not have it at all? I'd rather have love and lose it. Do it for the plot, honestly. If I don't even have a better answer than that, I feel like I'd much rather have love and like have that experience and then also experience heartbreak than just feel neutral about it all. That feels like an easy answer. Always. I think if there's so many people who write lyrics that are like that, like better to feel hurt than nothing at all, and there's people who are like, I'd rather feel nothing than hurt or something. Like there's these two, I think Noah Kahan did one, like Coldplay did one, and they had Lumineers and Noah Kahan. Me and music lyrics on this episode, honestly, go off. I'm gonna stitch this with an entire playlist of all the songs that I listened to that break my own heart. Noah Kahan, I think, and Lumineers, I want to say, did that, where they asked if you'd rather be in love or feel nothing at all. Okay. Oh, this almost goes into the book that I just read. The next question is, can you be in love with more than one person at the same time? I think naturally the answer is yes. Because, like, I think you can, like, love your friends and love your partner. It's just a different kind of love. Romantically, I feel like we always watch those, like, Love is Blind or, like, TV shows or, like, Love Island where they're like, oh my gosh, I have feelings for this person, but I have feelings for this person. I don't know that feelings and love are the same, so I want to be cautious about, like, that terminology per se. But, I mean, I think you can. I think you can love different things about people and that make it really like The Bachelor. I think that they can definitely be in love with more than one person because they have different qualities that they love about a person. I also think that that's going to tie right into our soulmates question, which is going to come from our voicemails in a minute. The question I asked is like, do you believe that you only have one soulmate? And I'm going to tell you my thoughts, but it's going to tie back into this. Can you be in love with more than one person at the same time? I think it has to do with the qualities. So let's do two more. Oh, are there different kinds of love? Yes. Friendship, love. I'm skipping it because I already answered it. Okay. Oh, is there a thin line between love and hate? No. I think it's a thick ass line. I think it's like extra bold line. Only because, you know, there's this like saying that I heard once that I do really think about often. The things that you used to love about your partner are the exact things you're going to hate about them when you break up. And I don't know if that's a thing of like you hate it about them because you miss it or you hate about them because you're like, oh my gosh, that's so annoying. But I think like, what's a good example? I'm trying to think of an example that's not from my own life because I'm not trying to like roast anybody. Oh, this is a good example that has nothing to do with anyone that I've ever been with, but like could be a great example. You could love how hardworking someone is and then date them and realize that they are a workaholic and never put you first. Okay? But when you meet them, you're like, oh my gosh, they're so driven. Like, I love that quality that they have goals and aspirations and they want to do so much with their life. And then you start dating them and you're like, why don't you have any time for me? Why aren't you putting me first? Why does your work always come first? I don't know if that means a thin line between love and hate, but I do think that's an interesting predicament. Okay, last one. Laura, you spicy girl. Does love need lust? No. I'm going to stick with no. I'm just trying to think about it. Like, I think lust needs love, but I don't think love needs lust. Oh, does it though? I mean, okay, we're going to get a little bit intimate. Madka, if you're listening to this episode, shut it off right now. I think the one thing that I do think about is being with a partner sexually, in my opinion, has only ever been enjoyable if I'm in love with them. I don't have a lot of experience in that area because I'm someone who definitely is nervous in that area. I like need also people think that I'm a virgin online. So sorry if I'm like bursting that bubble for you. I like have realized in my adulthood that like that I just casual can't do it. Not because I become too like emotionally attached to them from it, only because I don't feel like myself. I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel like also, I think my body is like sacred. I really like this idea that like you got to earn that. And like you have to be somebody who's like worthy of seeing me that, I think lust needs more love. Maybe not that lust has love in it, it's that it needs more of it. I think like you would have much more enjoyable lust if you were also in love with the person. Is that like cool? Is that good? Yeah? Okay. Okay. And now we're going to get into one of my favorite parts of every episode, and that is Anna Answers. And today we have 2 questions that people could have answered because I kind of just posted on my story with like, I have these 2 thoughts. I'd like to know your opinion on either of them. One's a story time, one's a question. Story time is how did you fall in love? And my potential yes or no question of the week is do you believe there's one soulmate? And before we hear the first voicemail, I'm going to say I do believe in soulmates. I don't know that you always meet them. I think that when you fall in love, you can fall in love with someone and they can have a laundry list of the best qualities on the world, but still be missing some areas. And people, when they are in love, grow to be soulmates. So that's why I think that you can have more than one because people can kind of grow and develop and choose to make themselves better to fill your voids, to fill your needs, to fill those areas of your life where you're looking for someone. But sometimes I also do think that there must be like, I don't know, in even like a sweet way that we're like 2 parts of the cosmos or something. I do love this idea that you have one person that you're meant to be with. I'm just not always sure that everyone gets to meet them. So that's what I think. But I can't wait to hear what you guys think. Let's hear the first voicemail.
You asked if we thought that you only had one soulmate, and I feel like that's a hard question because my husband and I have been together since we were 14, and I am now 25. So I definitely feel like he is my soulmate, but I also have a best friend, and I feel like she is my platonic soulmate. Like, she is my other half in every single way, and I just think that you can have more than one soulmate in different ways, in different aspects of your life. And so, no, I don't think that you just have one soulmate, but I'm very thankful for the soulmates that I do have in my life, and I hope that everyone else gets to feel how I feel about someone at some point in their life.
Okay, love that answer. I also agree that you can have one soulmate, but I think that this then runs the thing of twin flames. Like, do you think that you and your best friend are soulmates or twin flames? What's the difference between a soulmate and a twin flame? Like, I think twin flame is your 2 in the same, and soulmates is your better halves. That's the thing, is I feel like, so I kind of go back and forth of like who's my twin flame versus who's my soulmate, but I do agree that you can have like the platonic soulmate, like your platonic better half. Yeah, that's so sweet. That's such a good point. I didn't even think of it from that perspective, but yeah, that like it could be somebody who's not even in that. It's romantic, but not like romantic, like relationship romantic. It's like friendship romantic. Okay, love. Let's hear one more.
Hi, this is Rachel calling from Knoxville, Tennessee. I just saw your Instagram story asking about if I believe in soulmates or if there's one person for you. And I would say I am happily married for 6 years, by the way. So I would say no, but I do believe that there are people that are way more suited for you than others. And I think there's people that just get you way more than others. I think if there was a single one person for, every single person, that then, if someone accidentally, biffs and someone marries the wrong person, then it's like, oh shoot, then the whole entire system is thrown off. So I feel like logically that doesn't make sense. However, I am so in on like your person just believing that you are, it's like choosing your soulmate, if that makes sense. And so
what did I just say?
The choice when you wake up every single day, it's like, no, like my soul longs for you. I want my soul to be for you.
Okay,
and when you
poetic.
get married, that's like the covenant that you make, which is so fun. But yeah, so that is my thought. And okay, cool. Love you
okay,
so much.
Cool. Love
Bye.
you. Bye. Wait, okay. Yes. I agree. I think the same thing. I think it's like when you meet someone, you're going to meet people who are you're like meant to be around. I don't think anyone is perfect for you, but I think that they're going to like, if they really want to be with you and if they are meant to be your soulmate or your better half or your life partner, they're going to choose to grow in the ways that make you two go like that. I love it. And guys, that's a wrap on this week's episode. Thank you so much for watching and listening. I'm so happy that you're here. This was Anna's Guide. I hope you enjoy my podcast. And if you do, don't forget to rate it over on all the places that you get your podcasts, from Spotify to YouTube to Apple Music. And I am so happy that you're here. I said that already, but I'll say it again. Just like I overuse I love you. Don't forget to subscribe to Anna's Guide on YouTube for my full video episodes. And you can also follow me on Instagram and TikTok at The Anna Guide for all of your week's updates and little check-ins throughout the week on this podcast. So I'm so happy that you're here, and I'll see you very soon, like next week. Bye.